I'm sure you've noticed this before, but Canada is big. I mean really big. It's actually the second largest country on the planet after Russia. British Columbia is just one of the provinces that make up the country, but even on its own, it's pretty freaking huge. It's about as big as France, the United Kingdom, Denmark, Kuwait, Andorra, and the Marshall Islands, all put together. However, it's not as crowded as you might think. Less than 5 million people live here, so on average, you'll find about 5 people per square kilometer. British Columbia is Canada's westernmost province, and it's actually that part of the land that you always see between Alaska and the rest of the United States. The area now known as British Columbia is home to First Nation groups that have a deep history with a significant number of indigenous languages. British Columbia is actually still home to more than 200 First Nations. Of course, the arrival of European settlers did not bode well for the natives, and they were slowly pushed into minority. Of course, fur trade was a big thing here too, but it was the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush of 1858 that brought an influx of American and European settlers, and it's what prompted London to designate it as a colony. When the colonies of Canada, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick united to form the Canadian Confederation, British Columbia wasn't initially a part of it. But the main reason why the colony did join Canada was the gold rush and the large influx of settlers it brought. Burdened by debt, a need of proper infrastructure, and an economic depression caused by the end of the gold rush, British Columbia pushed to join Canada, and it succeeded in 1871. While the province has a white majority of European descent, it's also remarkably diverse. About 23% of the people living here are not of European descent. Chinese and Indian people alone account for over 16% of the population, but there are also large communities of Filipinos, Iranians, Jews, Japanese, Koreans, but also French, Italian, Polish, Norwegians, Romanians, Hungarians, Ukrainians, and the list goes on. Not to mention the Aboriginal population that represents almost 5% of the people. Thus, British Columbia is one of the most ethnically diverse places in North America. The capital of British Columbia is the city of Victoria. It's not a big city, but it's definitely charming. It's also sandwiched between two other major cities in the region. About 100 kilometers to the south lies the American city of Seattle. 100 kilometers to the north lies one of Canada's biggest cities, Vancouver, which is incidentally British Columbia's largest city. Vancouver is one of the most ethnically and linguistically diverse cities in Canada. 52% of its residents have a first language other than English. It's also one of the most densely populated cities in North America. On average, 5,500 people live per square kilometer. The city has consistently been named as one of the top cities worldwide for livability and quality of life. Major film production studios have also turned Greater Vancouver and nearby areas into one of the largest film production centers in North America, earning it the nickname Hollywood North. This province has 1,030 parks and protected areas and is continually expanding both the number and the size of the regions. The current amount of protected space is made up of 141 ecological reserves, 35 marine parks, 7 heritage sites, 6 national historic sites, 4 national parks, 3 national park reserves, and other designations that amount to over 800 distinct areas. In total, approximately 12.5% of the provincial land is a park or protected area. Home to more than half of Canada's wildlife and fish species, British Columbia is also the most biologically diverse province. Much of the province is undeveloped, so populations of many species that have become rare in much of the United States still flourish in British Columbia. Among them are bears. 1 in 4 North American grizzly bears are found in British Columbia. And with a population estimated between 120,000 and 160,000, British Columbia is also home to 1/4 of all black bears in Canada. There's also a rare subspecies of bears unique to this province called the Kermode bear. So, if you ever wanted to meet a bear in the forest, this is the place to be, although I wouldn't recommend it. With such a rich biodiversity and such vast lands of unspoiled nature, it's kind of logical that one of the world's most famous and powerful environmental NGOs was established in British Columbia: Greenpeace. The organization was founded by environmental activists in 1971 in Vancouver as a protest against underground nuclear testing, but has since evolved into the most visible environmental organization in the world. Greenpeace states its goal is to ensure the ability of the Earth to nurture life in all of its diversity, and focuses its campaigning on issues such as climate change, deforestation, overfishing, commercial whaling, genetic engineering, and anti-nuclear issues. In the beginning, Greenpeace functioned out of the private homes of its founders in Vancouver. But despite its humble beginnings, the organization endured to become a globally recognized voice of reason and a target of criticism.